Listen up, because what I'm about to tell you will separate the survivors from the corpses. When the grid goes dark and your fancy camping stove becomes a useless hunk of metal, everyone's out there hoarding propane canisters and MREs like they're preparing for a 2-week camping trip instead of societal collapse. You want to know the truth. When the trucks stop rolling and the stores get stripped bare in 48 hours, all that expensive gear becomes dead weight. But here's what they don't want you to know. A single tea light candle, the kind you probably throw away after a birthday cake, contains enough energy to cook hot meals for 3 weeks straight. If you understand basic thermal physics, not warm them up, actually cook them. I'm talking about harnessing convection, conduction, and radiant heat transfer using nothing but scavenged trash and high school science. This isn't some feel-good prepper fantasy. This is thermodynamics meeting desperation. And it works because physics doesn't care if civilization collapses. First, let's destroy the myth that you need roaring flames to cook food. That's Hollywood talking. Cooking is just controlled heat transfer into your food until proteins denature and starches gelatinize. A tea light candle burns at approximately 1800 degrees Fahrenheit at its hottest point, but produces only about 30 watts of thermal power. That sounds pathetic until you realize that's 30 joules per second, being released continuously for 4 to 6 hours from a candle that weighs less than an ounce. The problem isn't the candle's output. It's that 90% of that heat escapes into the air as waste through convection currents. Your job is to trap it, concentrate it, and redirect it using the garbage around you. This is where understanding conduction changes everything. Conduction is direct heat transfer through physical contact between materials. When you place a metal can directly over a candle flame, heat conducts through the aluminum or steel into whatever's inside. But here's the critical part. You need to minimize the air gap and maximize surface contact. Take an empty soup can or any food tin. Punch 3 small holes near the bottom with a nail for oxygen intake. Set your tea light inside. Now take a second, slightly larger can and nest it on top with maybe a 1/4 inch of water or food inside. The metal-to-metal contact conducts heat efficiently, while the enclosed design prevents heat loss. You've just built a miniature double boiler system from trash that can bring water to a simmer in 12 to 15 minutes. That's enough to cook rice, rehydrate beans, or make a thin soup. 1 candle, 30 minutes of cooking time. That's your dinner solved with something you'd normally recycle, but you're thinking 1 candle for 30 minutes means you'd burn through 50 candles in 3 weeks. Wrong. That's where understanding convection and insulation multiplies your efficiency by a factor of 10. Convection is heat transfer through fluid movement, and air is a terrible conductor but an excellent convector. Hot air rises and cold air rushes in to replace it, creating currents that steal your heat. Stop the convection and you trap the thermal energy. This is why a cardboard box beats expensive gear every time. Find any corrugated cardboard box. The trapped air in those corrugated layers is a natural insulator. Cut a hole in the top just big enough for your cooking can to nestle in. Cut another small hole in the side for access to light your candle underneath. Now when you cook, the cardboard walls trap the rising hot air around your cooking vessel. The temperature inside that box will climb to 200 or even 250 degrees Fahrenheit and stay there, creating a convection oven effect. Your food cooks from all sides, not just the bottom. This means your candle's heat isn't wasting into the atmosphere. It's being retained and recycled through the enclosed space. Suddenly that same candle that gave you 30 minutes of direct cooking now gives you 2 to 3 hours of sustained oven heat. You've just tripled your efficiency using a cardboard box someone threw in a dumpster. Now let's talk about reflection, because this is where trash becomes technology. Radiant heat moves as infrared waves through space, and shiny surfaces reflect those waves instead of absorbing them. Every soda can you've ever crushed contains aluminum. That reflects up to 88% of infrared radiation. Cut that can open and flatten it into a sheet. Line the inside of your cardboard box oven with these flattened pieces, shiny side facing inward. Now, the radiant heat from your candle isn't being absorbed by the cardboard. It's bouncing back toward your cooking vessel. You've created a reflective cavity that focuses thermal radiation exactly where you need it. This is the same principle behind emergency survival blankets, but built from literal garbage. The temperature inside your oven just jumped another 30 to 50 degrees. without burning a single extra second of candlelight. You're not just cooking anymore. You're engineering a thermal environment that maximizes every single joule of energy your candle produces. Here's where most people fail because they don't understand heat capacity and thermal mass. Different materials store heat differently. Water has an extremely high specific heat capacity, meaning it takes a lot of energy to raise its temperature, but then it holds that heat for a long time. Fill a metal water bottle or any sealed container with water. Place it inside your cardboard oven alongside your cooking can. As the oven heats up, that water absorbs thermal energy. When your candle burns out, that heated water continues radiating warmth for another 2 to 3 hours. You've created a thermal battery from a water bottle, and you can use it to slow cook grains overnight or keep food warm without any active flame. This is passive cooking through stored thermal energy, and it means one candle lit for 2 hours can provide useful cooking heat for 6 hours total. Your 3-week calculation just became realistic because you're thinking in systems, not just heat sources. But what about actual meal preparation? Because theory doesn't fill your stomach. Rice and beans become your foundation because they require relatively low temperatures and benefit from long, slow cooking. In your can-based double boiler system, combine 1 part rice or dried beans with 3 parts water. Light your candle inside the lower can. Place your food can on top. Bring it to a gentle simmer, which happens around 185 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't need a rolling boil. That's wasted energy. Once you see small bubbles, blow out your candle and immediately seal your food can with aluminum foil or a metal plate. Wrap the entire thing in any fabric, old clothes, towels, even newspaper. This is called haybox cooking or retained heat cooking. The insulation traps the residual heat and your food continues cooking through thermal inertia. For the next hour, you just cooked a meal using maybe 20 minutes of candlelight instead of an hour of constant flame. That single tea light just stretched from 1 meal to potentially 2 or 3 meals depending on portion sizes. Now, let's talk about combination cooking because you can stack functions when you understand thermal layering. Your cardboard oven with the reflective lining and thermal mass water bottle can accommodate multiple cooking vessels simultaneously. Place a flat stone or brick at the bottom. This absorbs heat through conduction and creates a stable, elevated platform. Set your candle on the stone. Position your primary cooking can directly above. But here's the trick. The rising hot air and reflected radiant heat are creating a hot zone in the upper portion of your box. Suspend a second. Smaller can or even a piece of aluminum foil formed into a shallow dish in that upper zone. Using wire or bent coat hangers, you can now slow toast seeds, warm pre-cooked food, or dry fruits using just the waste heat that would normally escape. One candle is now providing to separate cooking functions simultaneously. This is thermal zoning, and it's how you actually stretch one candle across multiple days of meals. For liquid-based meals like soups or stews, you can push this even further using solar preheating during the day. Place your ingredients and water in a dark-colored metal container. Set it in direct sunlight for 4 to 6 hours. Dark surfaces absorb solar radiation, and the water temperature can easily reach 120 to 140 degrees Fahrenheit without any fuel. When evening comes, you're not starting from cold. You're starting from warm. Now your candle only needs to add another 60 to 80 degrees to reach cooking temperature. Instead of 140 degrees from room temperature, you've just cut your fuel consumption in half by combining solar thermal collection with candle-based cooking. This is hybrid energy strategy using free solar radiation during the day and concentrated chemical energy from the candle at night. You're thinking like an engineer now, not a consumer. The science gets even more interesting when you understand combustion efficiency and oxygen management. A candle flame is a controlled oxidation reaction. The wax vaporizes, mixes with oxygen, and combusts, releasing energy. But if you restrict oxygen too much, you get incomplete combustion, which produces less heat and more soot. Those 3 small holes you punched in your lower can aren't random. They provide just enough airflow to maintain complete combustion, while preventing excessive convection that would cool your system. You can regulate your cooking temperature by partially covering these holes with small stones or metal scraps. More airflow equals hotter, faster burn. Less airflow equals cooler, slower burn. You've turned a tea light candle into a variable output stove using nothing but controlled ventilation. This level of control means you can simmer delicate foods or blast heat for boiling, depending on your needs, all with the same simple candle. Here's the psychological component they don't teach in survival courses. When you can produce a hot meal using almost nothing, you maintain hope. Cold food in a crisis doesn't just affect your body, it destroys your mental state. A warm meal, even if it's just rice and some scavenged seasonings, tells your brain that you still have control, that you can still provide, that you haven't descended into pure animal survival. This isn't about optimal nutrition or gourmet eating. This is about maintaining the human ritual of cooking and eating together, which keeps communities intact when everything else is falling apart. The candle isn't just fuel. It's a symbol that civilization and physics still work, even when society doesn't. Let's address the mathematics because you need to believe this is actually possible. One tea light candle burns for approximately 4 to 6 hours and costs maybe 10 cents in bulk. Let's be conservative and say 5 hours. If you're using the full system with cardboard oven, reflective lining, thermal mass, and retained heat cooking, you can realistically extract 6 to 8 hours of useful cooking capability from each candle. Through the multiplier effects we've discussed, you need approximately 1 hour of actual cooking heat per day to prepare to modest meals. That's 3 candles per week or 12 to 13 candles for 3 weeks. That's $1.30 in materials to solve your cooking needs for 21 days. Compare that to propane, camp stove fuel, or even firewood collection in a depleted urban environment. This isn't just cheaper, it's more reliable because tea lights are everywhere. They don't expire, they're waterproof when properly stored, and nobody's fighting over them in the chaos because they don't look like survival gear. The real survivors won't be the ones with the most expensive equipment. They'll be the ones who understand that energy is energy regardless of the source, and that physics provides options when money can't. A tea light candle is just stored chemical energy waiting to be released. Your job is to capture, concentrate, and control that energy using principles that have existed since humans first discovered fire. Conduction moves heat through direct contact. Convection moves it through fluid currents. Radiation moves it through electromagnetic waves. Insulation traps it. Reflection focuses it. Thermal mass stores it. These aren't survival tricks. They're fundamental laws of thermodynamics, and they work whether you're in a laboratory or a collapsed city. When you combine trash-based engineering with basic science, you create solutions that are essentially free, infinitely replicable, and completely independent of supply chains. So here's your action plan. Start collecting tea light candles now. Store them in waterproof containers. Gather metal cans of various sizes. Save cardboard boxes and aluminum foil or soda cans. Practice building your nested can stove and your insulated box oven before you need them. Cook an actual meal using nothing but 1 candle and scavenged materials. Time it, measure it, understand the limitations and the possibilities. Because when the moment comes, and it will come, you won't have time to experiment. You'll need this knowledge embedded in your hands and your brain. The grid is fragile. Supply chains are fragile. Your ability to adapt is the only thing that isn't. If you found this information valuable, if you understand that real survival is about knowledge and resourcefulness instead of credit cards and Amazon deliveries, then subscribe to the Grid Manual right now. This channel exists to teach you the physics of survival using trash, time, and applied science. Hit that notification bell because the next video might be the one that keeps you alive. When everything else fails, the collapse isn't coming. It's already here in slow motion. The only question is whether you'll be ready to cook dinner when the lights go out for good.